the most expensive barrier. I'm going to talk about a few different things on that, and I'm going to go in a few different areas. So Hojiman Tumende, Ton Sama, so I don't lose you. To start off, I want to go into the tabernacle. God went through drastic measures to bring his people out of Egypt. Then he gave very specific instructions to Moses on how he wanted the tabernacle, what type of materials to use, what dimensions, and how he wanted it structured. Why? Bottom line, because he desired to live amongst his people. I'm going to do a fast overview of the tabernacle. First you had the outer court, then you had the inner court. Inside the inner court, the priests would make sacrifices, and also they would cleanse themselves. Then the priests would enter the holy place. Inside the holy place was the altar of incense, and a table of bread, and a lampstand. But in front of the altar of incense was a veil. On the other side of that veil was the most holy place, or the holies of holies. And this is where the Ark of the Covenant was, and there was the very presence of God. The Ark was a symbol of a very special relationship between God and Israel. But you see, not just anybody could enter into the holies of holies. Only the high priest could enter the holies of holies. Ha'ikutsa, they only could have entered once a year on the Day of Atonement. The holies of holies was separated from the rest of the tabernacle or the temple by the veil. It was a huge, heavy drape made of fine linen and blue, purple, and scarlet, and embroidered with gold cherubim. The veil was there as a barrier between man and God. One of the prophets, B'nai, God, your eyes are too pure to look at their evil, and you cannot tolerate their sins. Now the rituals, Gaikaranas de Priest Santucci, they had to take place as a reminder that man could not carelessly enter God's awesome presence. Before the high priest entered the holies of holies, on the Day of Atonement, Musai Sasti Wuzarope, he had to put on special clothes, and also he had to bring burning incense. Why he had to bring Godo was the Avelik Tuv, to block his view so he didn't have a direct view of God. And he would also bring sacrificial blood with him to make atonement for sins. Hebrews 9:7 Penelpika that. But only the high priest entered the inner room, and that only once a year, and never without blood, which he offered for himself and for the sins the people had committed in ignorance. Now remember what I said, that the veil was there as a barrier between man and God. But God created man. When he created man, his plan was not for us to be separated from him, but God wanted to walk with us. God didn't want a separation between man and God. If we go back to the book of Genesis, we see that God was walking with Adam in the garden. And this is the way God intended it, but man sought after evil and sin instead. Now when we think of the crucifixion, the first thing that comes to mind is we receive salvation. But I think something that we overlook is that when Jesus Christ was crucified and he said it is finished, Amen, the veil was torn from the top to the bottom.
Amen.
There is no longer any barriers between men and God.
That's right.
God paid a very, very high price to remove that barrier, but it cost the blood of his son, his one and only son. And he did this so that we could establish a relationship with him today. Now guys, in the movies and in the pictures, because there's a lot of men in this room that's a lot older than me. In those movies and pictures, because there's like a piece of material, they garaveli Jesus. But guys, in all reality, Amarodel says mango.
Try.
Ang la Pesquidei, Uncle Sam.
That's right.
Ang la Pesca disciples, Kako Danny. Ang la Sao Foro, Dapo Lajab.
Try.
Jungares.
That's right.
The Bible shows us that Jesus received such a brutal beating that he was disfigured beyond recognition. Now, Uncle Sam, Nazbai, you can't recognize because of Jesus says. But it was because you couldn't recognize anymore he was a man. Because I'm using this example, but it's the first thing that came to mind. Isaac, we've seen roadkill before. Guys, animal, you cannot tell what is it anymore. Was it a squirrel? Whatever. Gadamu Tadeli, what about that he was disfigured beyond recognition?
Try.
Jesus done this to remove that barrier between us and God so that we can have a relationship with God today. But some of us are not interested in establishing this relationship. We are not interested in the hand of God. There are things of this world that are more interesting for us, more important to us. God told his prophet Hosea to take Gomer as his wife. Now, I initially intended to tell this full story, but I can't. So I'm going to give you guys all an assignment. Ganajan Kara Aret. Read Hosea chapter 1, 2, and 3. But I have to give you guys an overview. Sosas. Hosea was a prophet of God. Haisazik bimaladi juvri kepushelas Gomer. Odel penda for Hosea te lelkacha juvri te tola palapeste, because he wanted his prophet to experience a duk gayametaz andeleste. In that story, Hosea is an image of God, and we are an image of Gomer. Hayametaz karachiduk andodel. Read the story. It's a great story. I can't tell you all of it today because the sabbat respect I have for Kapopo Chitem.
Lord, make no apologies for the word of God.
But guys, I give you the assignment. Ganajan Kara, Pataro Hosea, and read chapter 1, 2, and 3. God does not want to share you with the world. He does not want a part of you or half of you or half of your heart or half-hearted worship. You know how they capture monkeys? They go and they make a hole in the tree. Small little hole, and they'll place an object inside the hole. Now the monkey climbing up the tree, he looks inside the hole, hailaleko attention, godo object. He developed a desire for godo object. So he puts his hand in the hole and he grabs onto it, but now that he's holding that object, he can't pull his hand out. Now very simple, for him to get out of this trap, he just needs to open his hand. But because of the desire he has for that object, and to capture him and take him into captivity.
Wow.
What about? If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. And if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Now, I highly doubt that God is expecting us to yank our eyes out of our heads. But it's very simple. If Instagram is causing me to fall on my phone, I need to remove Instagram out of my phone.
Try it.
Now remember what Jesus said in Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Boroducho added a little bit to this for me when I was reading it. You cannot serve both God and impure thoughts. You cannot serve both God and impure motives. You cannot serve both God and your flesh. And so on, Uncle Sam. We came to the point where pleasing ourselves is more important. Our wants and needs and satisfaction is our priority, and we put God on the back burner. Draw close to God, and God will draw close to you. You are as close to God as you choose to be. If there's anything we should chase after, it should be for us to be considered God's friends. I'm embarrassed to admit that it took a very long time to have. If there's anything in this world that I should chase after, it's for God to consider me his friend.
Amen.
Like any friendship, you must work at it. Developing your friendship with God. It won't happen by accident. It takes desire, time, and energy. If you want a deeper, more intimate connection with God, you must learn to honestly share your feelings with him. Trust him when he asks you to do something. Learn to care about what he cares about. And desire his friendship more than anything else.
Amen.
I have to repeat that part because it's the most important step, Uncle Sam. Desire his friendship more than anything else.
Amen.
Now, God considered Abraham his friend.
Amen.
God allowed Abraham to question and challenge him over the destruction of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham pestered God over what it would take to spare the city, negotiating with God from 50 righteous people down to 10.
Right.
Now, what I loved about Kapo's story, Uncle Toma, on the daily basis, Penazi de Vleska, Marabrigi. But you see in this story, because God considered Abraham his friend, God is coming to Abraham with his briga.
Wow.
God is coming to Abraham, Shima janav sote karabo kako foro. Grazia kajilo manga kako foro. Just te davre poyag, Abraham. God is coming to Abraham with leska brigi. This is the blessing that comes from being considered a friend of God. Now what happens next? Not only did he come to him with his briga, but Uncle Toma, his opinion mattered.
Sure
God
did.
listened to what he thought. He allowed him to negotiate with him.
Very good.
Now God considered Job to be his friend, and God defended Job, and he rebuked Job's friends for being unauthentic. God told him, "You haven't been honest either with me or about me. Not the way my friend Job."
Right.
Anikurinesti, guys. Not like my friend Job. Now, my friend Job will pray on your behalf,
Try.
and I will listen.
Try.
And I will accept his prayer. Matthew 7:21 through 23 in the Message. Penelope, knowing the correct password, saying "Master, Master," for instance, isn't going to get you anywhere with me. What is required, because we're going to come back to it. What is required is serious obedience.
Where is that at? Matthew what?
Matthew 7:21, Uncle Tom, in the Message, 21 through 23. What is required is serious obedience, doing what my Father's will. I could see it now at the final judgment. This is Jesus prophesying, Uncle Sam. This is scary stuff. Thousands strutting up to me and saying, "Master, we preached the message. We bashed the demons. Our God-sponsored projects had everyone talking. And do you know what I'm going to say?" You missed the boat. All you did was use me to make yourselves important. You do not impress me not one bit. You're out of here.
Wow.
Covet translation, put all away from me, for I never knew you.
That's right.
But we completely take that out of equation if we get to know God and we desire to
That's
have
right.
good friendship with Deblesa.
That's right.
And He'll consider us our friends. And
That's right.
now Jesus made it clear in that passage that obedience is a requirement.
That's right.
Obedience is also a condition of intimacy with God. He said that you are my friends if you do what I command.
That's right.
Now, when I was going through this reading and praying, I said, and now Uncle Sam fasting, where do I start to develop this relationship
There you go.
with a star reading God? The God that created everything that's around us. I mean, Jesus kadamang oducho is to think about a relationship today that I considered someone in this world that I considered to be my best friend. I go to Mugovoro or Frankie. Now, how am I with Mugovoro is I want to be with Mugovoro all the time. When I'm in my business, I want him a part of my business. In my everyday life, I enjoy him. I want him there in my everyday life. When I'm happy, I want him to share that happiness. When I'm sad, I want him there during that time to comfort me when I'm sad. His opinion matters in everything, rather if he's with me or not with me. I would go to a store and I would see a shirt. I love the shirt. I FaceTime him. Frankie, what do you think of the shirt? Ugh, I hate it. But because of his opinion, I walked away from it.
Wow.
This is what we need to look at, Karasami Devresa. Everything we do, to desire him to be a part of everything of our life. That's my best advice from what I experienced on how to start to establish couple relationship with
Amen.
Devresa.
That's how you started.